Hey everyone, my name's Codename N and I'm here to talk about Warframe yet again. In my previous video, I basically made a small introduction to Warframe and sort of went on promoting it. Today I'll take a little bit more of an in-depth approach to the game and I'll talk about the gameplay mechanics of Warframe's weapons and mods. It might get a little bit boring, especially if you're new to the game or if you haven't played the game before, but I hope I somehow keep you interested and I hope I do a well enough job of that. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy my video. With that, let's get started. Gameplay mechanics. Well, the first thing to talk about is obviously gonna be the concept of Warframe. Now, if you took my advice and you gave the game a try, then you probably know by now that a Warframe is gonna have 4 active abilities along with 1 passive. And every Warframe is essentially made out of 5 components, them being health, shield, armor, energy, and sprint speed. Now, moving on, other than these 5 components, your Warframe will have 4 power stats: strength, duration, efficiency, and range. Every Warframe will have different values for the component. Some Warframes are gonna be much more durable than others. Frames like Valkyr, Atlas, Wukong, or say Chroma. These Warframes have a huge amount of armor, while their other stats are much lesser, especially their sprint speed for some reason, I don't know. While there are Warframes like Banshee, Trinity, Titania, or Vault who have a very low armor rating. Basically, they're sort of squishy, but they more than make up for it by having either high amounts of shield or energy. The more you play the game, the more you'll understand which frame is better for what and what kind of frame suits your playstyle best. Straight off the bat though, I'll be honest, I find shield to be the least important of the components, but I think for a newer player you should give least importance to sprint speed. Your highest priority should definitely be health and energy. Now, getting past these components, let's talk about the 4 stats. See, every Warframe can insanely be modified and you do that by tweaking their stats. Every Warframe is gonna have 100% of all the 4 stats and they have 4 abilities, right? So the way you modify those abilities is by tweaking the stats. Let me explain. Take one of the starter Warframes, for example, Excalibur, right? Let's call him Excal for short. Excal's second ability lets you blind enemies. It behaves sort of like a flash grenade. Your second ability costs 50 energy at base and it deals 0 damage, but it does have an area of effect or AoE and it has a certain duration as to how long the enemies remain blinded. Now, if you want your Excal to work only around his second ability, you do much better increasing his range and duration rather than working on, say, efficiency or strength. But that's just his second ability. He does have 3 other abilities and you need to also focus on the 3 other abilities if you want a cohesive Warframe. You eventually learn how to do all these the more you play the game, so yeah. Coming to the next most important thing is going to be weapons. Weapons in Warframe are basically divided into 3 types: primaries, secondaries, and melees. Simplest way to explain it would be primary weapons you hold with both hands and you shoot, secondary weapons you hold with 1 hand and you shoot, and melee just sort of breaks all the fucking rules. You can hold it with 1 hand or you can hold it with 2 hands. Normally you slash or poke, but then sometimes you also shoot, sometimes you blast it, sometimes you boomerang it. You name it, your melee can probably do it. Alright, coming back to weapons in general. They behave similarly to Warframes such that they as well can be modified to an insane degree, but their stats are obviously different. Common things between all the 3 weapon types are critical chance, status chance, critical damage, status duration, and the weapon damage types. So impact, puncture, slash, and there's obviously elemental damages. There's also fire rate for primaries and secondaries, which sort of translates to attack speed on melees. Right, other than these stats, there's multi-shot, punch through, zoom, so on and so forth for primaries and secondaries, and for melee there's like range, finisher damage, and combo duration. A few more stats as well. Now, each of these stats can be uniquely modified to best suit the weapon, although some of these stats are just plain useless, like channeling efficiency and channeling damage. No one really cares about them. Otherwise, just like how I've said for Warframes, every weapon has its good and bad, and generally the best way to modify your weapon is to focus on the good as much as possible. Again, you get better at it the more you play the game, so don't really stress out if your weapon or Warframe builds don't really work out in the beginning. Similar to Warframes and weapons, there's also other gear like archwings, vehicles, sentinels, and obviously pets. Now, each of these gear follow the exact same concept as that of Warframes and weapons. Mod their stats so their good becomes excellent and their bad sort of becomes harmless. Now, I've talked a lot about tweaking and modifying the frame and weapon, so how do we really go about doing it? That's the question, right? I already talked about modding in my previous video, so if you haven't watched that, the link's in the description below. to those who that did watch it, you already know that modding is probably the most important thing in Warframe. There's obviously fashion frame, but yeah, modding is bread and butter to the game. In concept, it's kind of fucking annoying to understand, but I'll try and do my best to explain it, alright? And please forgive me if I confuse you, because it's kind of a hard-ass thing to explain. Alright, first things first, to modify a Warframe, you need a mod. Simple. It basically looks like a card and it drops from enemies, or you get it as rewards for completing mission. Now the basics, you get a tutorial for it, so don't really stress out, but you need to know some of the other important things, right? Firstly, your Warframe has 10 mod slots. Your primaries and secondaries have 8 and your melees have 9. Now the mods, they drop unranked, right? So you need to rank it up first, and to do so you need Endo, another resource that drops from enemies or you get as rewards for completing missions. That's easy enough to understand so far. You need Endo to rank up mods, which in turn you put in your gear and it becomes better. But wait, each mod takes up a mod space and your gear has only a finite amount of mod space, or mod capacity if you will. So even though there are 10 mod slots on your Warframe, it's highly likely that you won't be able to fit all the mod slots with mods because there's not enough capacity to fill the room. It's sort of like a puzzle, and the more you play it, you understand it better. There are things like mod polarities and forma and stuff like that, which I think I shouldn't stress it out right now because it'll just confuse the fuck out of you. But yeah, let's just say that they exist, right? Now, simplest thing to tell you would be you need to rank up your mods first, and then once you do that, you have to brainstorm on which mods you want on your Warframe or your weapon. Make sure that these mods somehow fit in your Warframe or your weapon. And after you do so, you have a working and very efficient frame or weapon or any other gear you want. But you see, there are about 1,000 mods in the game, alright? And no two mods usually work the same. What I mean is, say you want to increase your power strength for your frame, right? There's 6 different mods for that. There's Intensify, Umbral Intensify, Transient Fortitude, Blind Rage, Augur Secrets, and Power Drift. Now each of these have different values, different polarities, and 3 of them turn out to be even more of a pain in the ass because 2 of them are set mods and 1 is an Exilus mod. Now one of them even has an Umbra polarity which you can't even format. No matter how much you've played the game, modding is always gonna be annoying, right? Firstly, we all want to build things differently, and unless we take chances formatting a gear a certain way, which basically means you handicap yourself to a certain playstyle, we'll never be able to bring out the full potential of our Warframe or weapon. And I haven't even mentioned Riven mods, which the community just loves, let me tell you. Now Riven mods take up the most mod capacity of any mods, and that's not even the annoying part. Here's what gets my goat, so to speak. Riven mods are mods for weapons. These mods are initially veiled, but after you complete the Riven challenge, they unveil themselves and present themselves with random stats. Now these mods can be for any weapon. So now say you want your Ignis, right? It's a flamethrower basically, and you want to make that weapon the best possible weapon in the whole game. To do so, firstly you're gonna need a Riven for that, which best of luck trying to get one. Then you got to re-roll the Riven over and over again till you get the stats which you want, and then you gotta format the fuck out of the weapon till you eventually manage to fit the Riven. The thing is, learning to mod was fun. It opens up so many different possibilities which other games can only dream of, but it's annoying at the same time. This is the one thing that takes the longest to adjust to, or at least that was the case for me. And even now I tend to fuck up my modding setup on my weapon or Warframe randomly. Having said all of these, Warframe's weapons and mods do tend to have some exceptions to every case, and there are Warframes like Inaros and Nidus who don't have any shields, and there's Hildren who doesn't even have energy. Similarly, not all weapons do the same damage. Some do elemental damages, some weapons behave totally differently. For example, there's a melee weapon called Redeemer, right? But somehow it's a shotgun. Okay. There's a weapon called Ferox, which is a rifle, but it can be thrown like a javelin. So yeah, there are exceptions, and usually they tend to be fun, but don't get too stressed out about a certain thing. Just take your time, go at your own pace, and enjoy the game as much as you can. Yeah. Hope I somehow managed to keep you guys interested, and if I didn't, I'm sorry for that. I'll try and do a better job in my upcoming videos. Having said that, I hope you have a good night tonight, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe to my video and share my videos. New YouTubers so really need the love. Thanks, good night.